everywhere I go, I get asked, why am I here? So what led me here, what brought me here, was some weird intersection between midlife crisis, or at least what we'd call midlife crisis in the West. A bunch of things went wrong in my life and looking for change in the West. You know, and I love my country, but I was deeply unhappy where I was at. And then a huge driver is this growing number of people from the West, specifically men from the West, I'm learning, dissatisfied with how difficult the dating landscape, romance, love, relationships, is like impossible in the West. There's this enormous community online talking about, there's several conversations happening out there that lead to these videos, articles, conversations that are like, right, the best countries out there to be an expat from America or from the West, the best countries out there to be a digital nomad, the best countries to retire cheaply with a high quality of life, the best countries to retire early, cheaply, high quality of life. And then there's this whole conversation about the quality of healthcare in the world outside of the West, which brings you to Southeast Asia. Yeah, so this is not one of my little Discovery Channel, National Geographic videos. This is an adult conversation, and this is not really meant for the Malaysians, although you might find this interesting to learn something about how us Matsaleh, people from the West, are built, our psyche. Why are we here and what are we looking for? Well, I'm going to tell you. I've been poor, I've been rich, and then poor again. And it was so expensive living in my country that I had to find another way. So the Southeast Asian nations were the answer to that question, or at least they're on the list. But I had to come see for myself. And what is it that I've seen and experienced since I've been here? I did not know what to expect of Malaysia at all. And part of the reason for that is there's kind of like two people producing two different brands of content informing the conversation of what it's like in Malaysia. And the one camp, you have people under the age of 30. And everything they're producing is absolute garbage. And the time that I've been here, in the 3 months that I have been traveling all over this country, I have found, like, if somebody looks like they're under the age of 30, it's garbage what they're making. It's not accurate. They say things like, oh, it's just a whole vibe. What does that even mean? That doesn't even mean, they don't even take the time to like learn the history of a place, get to know the people, get to know the food, understand what made it come to be this way. Okay, so that's one thing that I've discovered is there's a ton of just garbage out there that's bad advice. Then you get this camp of people who are at retirement age. And the information they're furnishing is actually really valuable, really interesting, but sometimes it's really boring. And they're drawn on with these long videos just for one piece of information. I came looking for, in comparison with other Southeast Asian nations, an affordable cost of living, right? A quality of life that would, if it's not on par with the West and the United States, at least comparable or tolerable, or at the very least, healthcare outcomes that are a trade-off with cost, and that works. So here's like one story. I was up in the Cameron Highlands and I got attacked by dogs up there, and I had to come home, or not come home early. I had to come back to Kuala Lumpur to get the series of rabies vaccine over the course of 2 weeks. That was 4 shots. I went to the government hospital here in Kuala Lumpur, and each one of those visits to get a shot cost 100 ringgit. That's a total of 400 ringgit. If I was to roughly translate that into US dollars, that's about $100, right? That's going to the emergency room. Sure, I had to stay there all day with all the people, but everybody was so good to me. And like, that's a much more affordable price for that kind of emergency care than you're gonna find anywhere in the West, and especially the United States. Okay, so I need to get back on topic here. I'm looking for a different way of life. I'm so glad that I spent the whole 3 months here that they gave me in the visa. So I'm not young enough to take advantage of the MM2H visa program, the My Malaysia Second Home, which is like 50 and above. It's like a retirement visa for those of us. I don't even have enough money to contribute to. You have to bring a certain amount of money. But that's always a question, is like, can I do work here remotely, digitally, and do business back with the United States? Whatever, this is such a waste of time to talk about, but it's seriously annoying. It's seriously annoying that 99% of the tourists that I have come across in the last 5 months, 2 months in Thailand and 3 months here in Malaysia, 99% of the tourists, they're selfie hunting. Like, there's no cultural enrichment going on. They're just chasing down the top 10 lists of like iconic places and historic sites to take their little selfie, and then they move on and they don't spend the time to get to know the place. And I have absolutely loved, like, Malaysia is a treasure because there are so many layers to the story of the history, of the culture, of the people. It's hard for me to imagine people being more kind and warm and accepting of me and social and curious about me at the same time that I'm curious about them, and it's hard for me to imagine feeling much safer than I have felt throughout the whole of Malaysia. That is not an invitation to leave your bags out and just test that. And a little pointer out there is, if you're ever in doubt because of the way somebody's looking at you or their body language, the simplest and fastest way to test why somebody is looking at you that way is to just say, "Hello, my friend," in the most friendly voice possible. And within 0.5 seconds, in a half a second, their body language, their facial expression is going to tell you everything you need to know. So that, yes, there have been a couple of times where I have, based on somebody's reaction, realized I need to put some distance between myself and this person. But most of the time, if there's like this intense look while they're looking at you, they're trying to figure out, like, what are you doing here? But not in a bad way, like in a friendly way, in a curious way. And further, the English proficiency level in this country is absolutely stunning. I had no idea how many people, whether it's in the urban environment or in the more rural places, like, the English proficiency here is incredible. Everybody speaks, well, not everybody, but most people speak, at the very least, transactional English, and the shocking number of people are English proficient. So a lot of times they'll have this look, and it's, when you say something like, "Hello, my friend," it's almost like this invitation for them to practice their English with you, which they may have wanted to do, but they're intimidated to do out of shyness, just cultural differences that you don't understand if you're from America. So yeah, 99.9% of the time, if you say, "Hello, my friend," like, this incredible thing happens with the exchange in somebody, but you may have been thinking the body language was telling you something different. Anyway, Malaysia, my love letter to Malaysia. Oh, the lights are coming up. It's so beautiful. This is my favorite time, right? So I came searching for answers or the truth behind all of these lists and questions about best places to live for retirees, early retirees, expats, digital nomads, on all their little top 10 lists. And Malaysia, whether the country makes the list or not, 2 places in Malaysia are routinely on these lists: Kuala Lumpur and Penang. And I spent time in both places with a 90-day visa. Spent time getting to know the whole country. I had so much fun doing it. So, nuts and bolts. How expensive is it? Everywhere I've been in this country, getting a grab ride, doing a ride hailing that's a reasonable distance across any town, is anywhere from 6 ringgit to 12 ringgit, no more than 15 ringgit, as long as it's like a cross-town voyage. Anytime you start going outside of the city, looking for, you're chasing down iconic sites, then it can get a little bit more expensive. But think about that, 6 to 12 ringgit per ride. At the time that I'm doing this, it's 4.1 ringgit to the US dollar, which means that's $1.50 to $3 per ride. That's pretty good. Bus rides around the country. The most expensive bus rides I've taken have been an 8.5-hour bus ride that was 45 ringgit. So do the math, that's like a $10 ride. All of those buses, when you go from city to city, everywhere in this country, they are the more luxurious bus liners. Sometimes they're single story, sometimes they're double decker. But that's a very affordable price. I think the cheapest bus rides I've taken, I've done a couple from city to city that were 15 ringgit rides. That's incredible, right? They kind of have one climate control setting, which is like ice cold It's awesome for the first hour or two of the ride, but be sure that you bring layers, because you can get really cold if it's an 8-hour journey, and sometimes they only do a bathroom stop once that whole time. So don't drink too many fluids before you take a bus ride. You could be in a very uncomfortable situation. For those bus rides, I have said in other videos, I've talked about how get to the bus station and you have all these choices, but actually I think I've had the best experience with the app or the website redbus.my for Malaysia, right? Where you can pick the seat on the bus and they have all of the bus trips listed. You can pick your specific seat, pick your specific time, see the ratings on the different bus carriers. That's a really good website. Okay, so bus riding, getting around the country that way, very affordable. The train, as I've shown in other videos, you can get up and down the West Coast, and then somewhere around the Malacca area inland, about an hour, you can go up towards the East Coast, toward Kota Baru. But the problem is that's a nighttime train, so you don't get to see any of the scenery if you take that train going up to the northeast corner. So not used very heavily by travelers yet. Food. Here's the thing about food. And I see you smiling behind the phone like, oh, what's he gonna say about Malaysian food? The food here is incredible everywhere you go. But it takes time to learn the same secret you learn in Thailand, which is, yes, it's delicious. Yes, the spicing is incredible. But some of what makes it so good is a lot of things get fried and a lot of things have sugar added to them. So you need to learn in a decent period of time to be paying attention to what's fried, what has sugar added to it, and how to communicate that you don't want that. You also need to learn some self-control, and the first thing coming out of your mouth is sayu, vegetables. You've got to include the healthy stuff in your diet, because really quick it's going to get out of control. You're just going to be eating fried noodles and fried rice and fried chicken, and it's delicious, but you're also your body composition is going to change very quickly, right? If you're not running around the lakeside like my friend here. If you go to places in touristed areas like Bukit Bintang, you're not getting an authentic experience. You're getting overpriced, and it's a tourist area. You have to actually go into the grittier areas of towns and to the grittier looking restaurants and stalls. And a great rule of thumb for you to know whether that is a safe thing to do, because doing that runs totally counterintuitive to the American psyche, right? We're always looking for what's cleanest, shiniest, but you are going to pay for that here, and you're not going to get the Malaysian experience. So a great way to know is that place full of locals? And if it is, follow their lead and go inside. Second of all, you could put yourself at risk if there's a big pile of food just sitting there and you don't know how long it's been cooked. But if you can see that grill going, I don't know of anybody ever having a problem at that place. The price of food. Most of the meals I've ever eaten in this country, because that's how I eat, I always go for those like a little bit grittier local places. Most of the time, my meals are less than 10 ringgit. Or if I'm doing nasi kandar, then it's like between 10 and 20 ringgit. Those are big plates of food, right? But if you're sitting down for a meal and you're looking at the menu and it looks like it's going to cost you more than 25 ringgit right off the bat, you're in the wrong place. That's the wrong answer, mister. That is a touristy thing right there. So, I mean, good for you if you're doing that for comfort, but that's not how I roll. Okay, so food. Food is very affordable. I would put it on the same level of affordability as Thailand. Transport around the country, same thing. I would put those prices in general, when you take all things considered, it's about exactly the same as Thailand. The language proficiency, the English proficiency here in Malaysia, all over the country, is far superior to what I experienced in Thailand. That language barrier, it's very real up there. It's very easy to communicate here. Okay. Dating, love, and relationships. While it was not at all what I was not here looking for specifically that. I have no idea why. Could you do it? If you are an American person that looks like me, sounds like me, could you come here to Malaysia and have a good dating life? 3 months into it now, I would say yes. there are gonna be some barriers, some psychological barriers you're gonna have to get over that just mean getting outside of your comfort zone. But that's why you're coming here in the first place. You're gonna have to get outside of your comfort zone no matter what, in everything you're doing in this new life you're looking for, between the food you're looking for, the places you're staying, right? If you left America, you need to like engage with the local people. If I left the West out of dissatisfaction with dating and romance and love and how that's all structured, the mythology behind that that's creating all of the problems for men in the West, do I think it would be an easier thing to navigate here? I actually do. I do think it would be. I think it answers some of those questions. I think it solves some of those problems. But again, if you are a Westerner, you're gonna have to get past some of your preconceived notions. Everything is gonna be different about it because of those cultural lenses. So me staying here, the whole time I've stayed here, in 3 months, only one time as a hotel, I've been staying in hotels for, short-ish periods of time. Only one time have I spent over $30 US in a night. But I've gotten it for as cheap as $15 US for a night. So depending on your budget, you do the math yourself on that. But that's as affordable as it was to do the same kind of thing in Thailand, for example, but far more affordable than living in the United States. So depending on the kind of pension you're on or retirement or budget, whatever your world looks like, I go the budget route. These are not 5-star hotels at all. I won't get too deep in that one. But what would it look like if I was staying long-term, if I was staying 30 days at a time or 60, 90 days at a time? What would a 30-day lease in one of these condo buildings cost?
It's quite expensive.
Give me an idea. Could I do it for 1,000 ringgit a month for 30 days at a time?
I think more than that.
2,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
2,000 to 3,000.
So 2,500?
Yeah.
Could I find something respectable?
Something like that.
Like down at Mid Valley in the Eco Park, I could do 2,500, 30 days at a time, 3,000. Yeah. That's a pretty nice area.
3,000.
That's really, that's a bougie little area. You might end up needing to account for about a 3,000 ringgit per month. Food, dating, living, transportation, spiritual journeys. I don't know. Ask me questions. What have I not talked about? I don't even know. Okay, let's stop.